My Sudanese style never fade away. I stay reppin', man, as D-boy. I'm all about Sudan, and that's what I enjoy. I see you wanna hate, I see you wanna diss.
Alright, so we're gonna take a look at phenotypes, definitions, and yeah, man. So race, right? What is the real definition of race? A race is defined as a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical features and traits, right? So in this video, we're gonna get into things like, okay, race and racism versus prejudice. And the reason why we need to understand, okay, ask this question, what is race? And we have this nice definition here, is because, well, we have these ideas that people promote, such as race being a social construct and not being completely real, and that we're all only 1% different from each other, which I believe is completely false and that's cap. But whatever, right? So we have these ideas floating around. We're all just the human race and whatever, when in reality is not really the case. But also, when it comes to looking at race, there's multi different levels to it. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the different levels to it and how racism and prejudice work together to sort of create what, injustices that we see in the world today. So again, it's a category of humankind that shares certain distinctive physical traits. Now, we're going to take a look at black population, right? We're going to look at black and white because whenever you think racism, you always think black and white, especially you grew up in the Western world. Me personally, I grew up in America. And, whenever you think racism, you just tend to think black and white, right? Black, you associate that with all sorts of things, slavery, civil rights movement, especially when you throw the word racism in there. But the thing about black is, and the thing about race in general is like how the way that I would define race is, or the way that I would define black specifically, right? The black race is the most closest to the original Homo sapien. And what I mean by that is black people in general just have less archaic admixture. And blacks are the foundational race of the Homo sapien. Everybody branched out from a black Negro-looking type of people. Now, even when we take this into consideration, most of you guys gonna be like, "Oh, what? Like, nah, that's probably not true." You know what I'm saying? You're waffling, you're capping, right? You're bullshitting. But I'm actually not. But because here's the thing, right? Black is the most diverse race. On top of that, we have races out here that are not really actually racist. Like when we say Asian, for example, that's not a real race. That's just a continent. And to be honest, if I'm gonna keep it real, Asia's not even a continent. It's part of the continent called Eurasia. So Europe and Asia aren't even a continent. So again, fallacies, concepts we grew up with, certain things gotta be thrown inside the trash. But black, that's definitely a real race. But it's more complex because most people associate black with big nose, fat lips, Ford type hair, and dark skin. That's how most people would describe black. But again, like I said, there's multiple levels to it, and it's a very diverse race. And I also have to tell you guys about the idea of the sub-Saharan African, which is completely, utterly terrible. It's garbage. You need to get that out of your head. There's no such thing as the sub-Saharan African. So take a look, right? You're going to take a look at different phenotypes. So here we got the Dinka phenotype, which are part of the Nilotic phenotype. This is what my phenotype is, because I'm Dinka. Got this Congolese phenotype right here. And we have this North Ethiopian phenotype. And we got white people phenotypes, basically. Oh, we'll just call it white people phenotypes. Okay? And so, we'll take a look at black. We'll focus on black first, right? These people in the Western world would all consider them black, right? Now, notice how I say the Western world. I'll get into that later. So, if you look at the black phenotypes, the overall general point that I'm gonna make is that they're very different. They're not really the same as people would like to make it seem. So, if we look at and read the Nilotic phenotype, it says black skin, kinky hair, very tall, the tallest of all modern phenotypes. Extremely ectomorph, thin hips, rather graceful upper bodies, wider faces than Shilluk, which is another nilotic phenotype. Steep forehead, lips full, chin is sturdy. In some individuals, pseudo-mongoloid eyes can appear. That's another kind of thing. That's another element to it. Pseudo-mongoloid eyes, right? This is basically what people would call Asian eyes, the slim eyes, right? I don't know. I believe I have them. You know what I'm saying? People have them. People have sort of Asian eyes, and even the Khoisan people of Southern Africa, they have, I believe, these Asian eyes, as you would refer to them. And the reason why I wanted to point that out is because that is something we associate with a different race. And bringing it back to the definition, if I can take a look at that, right? Well, let's see. Give me 1 second, right? It's terrible that I keep forgetting where I am putting things, right? People who share certain distinctive physical traits. Well, these people, you would not question that these people are black, but they also have certain traits associated with another race. So there's another kind of element in there that you gotta think of. And then prognosy, right? Something especially like if you look in anthropology and craniometric analysis, prognosy usually is what people classify as Negro features. Well, in our case of the Dinka, we have weak prognosy, which is a projecting jaw. So it's either weak or absent. So we don't really have projecting jaws like that. All right, this is the Dinka phenotype, part of the nilotic phenotype. And obviously you can look at the geographical distribution, you know what I'm saying, where this phenotype has been found or existed. It's not just modern day, also through the course of history as well. Now we look at the Congolese phenotype, you know what I'm saying? Some people might call it like a Bantu, whatever you want to call it, right? We'll look at the physical traits. Well, it says dark brown, sometimes light brown, kinky, rarely peppercorn hair, rather short, endomorph or mesomorph. So you guys don't know endomorph, mesomorph, ectomorph. Ectomorph, which the Dinka means skinny. Mesomorph is like muscular. And endomorph is like bigger type. I'll just say plus size, right? Fat people. You know what I'm saying? And then not necessarily obese all the time, because it's still a body type. So, but just like a bigger person, I'll just say. And then large angular face with prominent cheekbones, funnel-shaped noses with extremely depressed roots, lips thinner than Sudanese, which is another phenotype. Body hair stronger. Prognathous, basically with a receding chin. This basically means that they do have the projecting jaws that I was talking about. Okay? So there's that. And then we have the North Ethiopian phenotype. This phenotype is common amongst Beja, even Nubians, and all that stuff, right? Dark, medium bronze, brown skin, tight curly hair, rather tall, ectomorph, so they're skinnier, small-headed, glacial marked, facial features, nose midly, I don't know how to say this word, high bridge, straight or convex, lips are full, chin is strong, prognathism is absent, so they literally do not have projecting jaws, right? In the Western world, you are not gonna question that these people are black. You would call them black because even in the Western world, mixed people can pass with saying that they're just black, even though like we know that they're mixed, but you know what I'm saying. Some people just say like no, they just go, I'm just black. You get what I'm saying? Now the reason why I have to take a look, go through these, right? You won't confuse someone who looks like this for someone who looks like this. You won't confuse someone who looks like this for someone who looks like this. And you won't confuse someone who looks like this for someone who looks like this, right? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it definitely exists. And then, like, on a genetic level, these three people have far less archaic admixture, which is basically ancient humans like Neanderthal is a good example. have less archaic admixture than these people, because Neanderthals lived in Eurasia. The only way people in Africa really got Neanderthal DNA is through back migrations into Africa. Alright? But the first people coming out of Africa were coming out, and these races, people took time to develop into this. Like white people, white skin is very new. It's almost like 6,000 to 9,000 years old. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind. White skin is 6,000 years old, 6 to 9,000 years old. Good example, look at Cheddar Man, a man who lived in Europe. He was very dark skinned, okay? If you ever seen Cheddar Man, that's a good example. Prove the point. And then you can also look at Neanderthal level ancestry in different populations. So that's one thing. And the percentage is actually big. And let me see if I can even find. As a matter of fact, I probably should have just had it already. So I'll probably, maybe if I'm editing, I might show some articles. But overall point is that, the races and the differences in phenotype and genetics definitely do exist. That's the point I'm trying to make here. However, when it's considering race, you have to understand, with all these three people being classified as black, you do have to realize that people don't always fit in the specific set categories. Because if somebody describes this specific phenotype as black, well, and this phenotype only, you can't restrict it to that. You can't restrict black to this phenotype, or this phenotype. The way like I said, blacks are the more original Homo sapiens. And again, I'll bring this full circle when talking about racism and prejudice. But people who have this phenotype, right? This is why I had a Sudanese Arab search up, right? Because I'm gonna make an example. With the Sudanese Arabs. These people who would most likely, right? They have this phenotype. That's the type of phenotype that they will fall under. There was a situation between the northern Sudan and southern Sudan. So mainly people of this phenotype, and then a couple others as well, like Chalukid, South Nilotic, etc., right? Where there was racism involved, and essentially, like in the north especially, people like this didn't really see themselves as black. And especially if you look into the community, like on TikTok, I see like Somali trolls, people saying that I'm not black, I'm Somalian. Basically all this type of stuff going on, right? And they see themselves as different from other black people. Well, I mean, black people in general are different from each other, okay? Not every black person is gonna have the same phenotype. So that's number one. Not everybody has the same phenotype. So these people see themselves as their own people. And the weird thing is that, well, in the case of Nubians especially, unless they're of Afro-Asiatic origin, which they would most likely have like more ancient mixture, a Nubian probably looked like this, and then basically a Middle Easterner came along, right? And most of the mixture happened after the fall of Dongola. But the point is, though, these people would consider themselves as the Sudanese Arab, right? Some people would call the Sudanese Arabs, would call other Sudanese black Sudanese, right? And they would look something like this, right? I think this is an example maybe of a more pure Arab, I would say. They see themselves as different from other Sudanese and call them black Sudanese. Even people who might look like this, right? And then they would associate being black with being a slave. They call this abid, I believe that's the word for it in Arabic. You get me? And so, but if you bring some of these people to America, obviously, especially if they're carrying this phenotype, they would be able to classify as black in the Western world. So the point I'm making out of this example is that due to your society, you might view yourself as different, because even black people don't always view each other as the same when it comes to tribal wars, ethnic violence. These people don't really view each other as the same. Okay? They view as this people, he's part of this group, this ethnic group, this tribe. I'm part of my own people. That's how some people would view it, right? Which is why people can say race is a social construct. Again, it's not, because obviously we know there's a difference between this and that. You know what I'm saying? Then levels of arcade admixture. But people didn't really view it as like Asian, European, whites, black, Africa, you know? Because even a lot of people probably haven't even seen the whole world until modern times. Like, a lot of my people, right? Although yes, I do. We come from kingdoms like Egypt, Kush, Christian Nubian kingdoms, and people would interact with different people, do trade. You know what I'm saying? Romans coming through. You know what I'm saying? Turning people Christian, exploring Africa. You know what I mean? You haven't really seen the whole world like that. You get me? So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. You know what I mean? And then again, with the society and culture that you grew up with, you might not really identify with your race as much. You would identify with your culture or / ethnic group, right? And so when we take a look at the definition of racism, right? Let's look at racism. Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically that one that is a minority or marginalized. Okay, that is racism. Prejudice, preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. And so off of these two definitions, the way that I would tell you and describe the dynamic between these two different things is that racism creates prejudice, racist ideology, right? Racist propaganda. Propaganda in general will create prejudice. Prejudice goes deeper than just race. You can have prejudice on anything. Andrew Tate's a good example. People would see 2-second, 10-second videos of him on TikTok and develop a prejudice against him based off of what? Preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. All in all, they didn't. That one video that they seen of him was taken out of context, and you, in order to understand it better, you might have to take a look at some longer form content. And so, on the basis of race, it's the same thing. Racism, it creates prejudice, especially like when you use the America definition, right? Well, blacks were and still are a minority group in America that are marginalized, don't really have that much power as people might think. Same thing that happened with like the Sudan, for example, right? Southerners, black Sudanese didn't have or carry as much power as the Arab Sudanese. And although we probably were more of a majority, we were marginalized. You get me? Our struggles weren't really taken that seriously. We had to fight our way. You know what I'm saying? We had to fight for what we needed. And so with the racist propaganda, again, yes, it's discrimination and prejudice, right? But there's also the element of power, dominance, okay? People are usually dominated, especially in today's world, right? Dominated through political grounds. That's the case, I believe, in this. So then we didn't really have the political grounds. If you look at how the colonial era kind of affected the way that the politics went and the way that the flowing and sharing of culture went, a lot of black Sudanese were put at a disadvantaged position, especially when you have a country full of groups that have a long history with each other. Now people don't always get along. You get me? So racism, though, also has the element of, again, the society that you are in, because in that case, in the Western world, everybody would call these people black, except for people who might have exclusively Arab ancestry, in the case of the Sudan. But due to the society that they're in and the Arab culture being a thing, because that's what really Arab is. It's really a culture. That's why we have Afro-Arabs and Arabs of different types, right? It's really a culture. So this is why I believe they also put ethnic group in there, because in a lot of places, especially before modern times, people didn't really go off of race. They went off of ethnic group, because the same way that there's a difference between this person and this person, the same way that there's a difference between this person, and this person, right? Obviously, these people are probably more closer. You know what I mean? They're given, therefore their race. You know what I mean? But also, it's just acknowledging that there's diversity. It's not. I'm not telling that there's just the human race. I don't like that idea. Like, oh, there's just the human race. Humans are very, very diverse, especially black people. The reason why black people are very diverse is because we're the origin of we're the Homo sapiens, original Homo sapiens. You get me? And so, with that being said, guys, you know what I'm saying? That's really how I would describe race, the dynamic between racism and prejudice. And yeah, guys. So with that being said, if you guys like the video, definitely hit the like button. Share this video with anybody who might have anything interesting to say about it. If you have anything interesting to say about it, leave it in the comments. Tell me in the Discord, the link to that will be down below. And you can hit me up on Instagram. I'll leave those in the link below, the description below. So yeah, guys, you guys have a good one. Sorry for I'm kind of tired because I recorded this multiple times, bro. So I'm kind of like worn out, but I still got the point across, so that's good. That's all that matters. So yeah.